So thanks for joining us, JC. He
Oh, there we go.
There you are, and JC's stands for Juan Carlos. Do you prefer JC or Juan Carlos, or does it matter?
People know me by JC, so we'll go with
Okay,
JC.
all right, we'll go with JC. So we came in contact to each other. You posted a cry for help on a
Literally.
on a Facebook group. And tell us a little bit about your story or your situation, and then we'll talk about kind of like the underlying issues that was involved with that. So go ahead and
Okay.
what happened?
So this was probably 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had logged in the night before into the QuickBooks accountant version. I was working on client data. Everything was working great. And then the next day, I go in to continue my work and get into QuickBooks and get into work and all that. And I logged in and I got an error message. It said your login credentials weren't valid. It said that, what did it say?
I think the message, and that's what tipped me off when you messaged that, your account has been deactivated.
Deactivated. Yeah, I'm like, what?
Right. So and this was just for those that are following along. He's just trying to log into QuickBooks, and this is the message that he gets into QuickBooks Online: is your account's been deactivated. So so that's a panic for an accountant trying to log into QuickBooks Online,
right,
during tax season.
During tax season.
Because there's not much you can do after that when it says your account's been deactivated. So what happened? What steps did you take at that point besides crying for help on Facebook?
Right. So to be fair, I did receive some Intuit emails. It said, hey, you've been, I guess, randomly chosen to have your account verified. We need some information. And at first I thought, oh, it's a scam. Like, I just kind of glanced over the email. It's a scam. They're just trying to fish for information and whatnot. And, I sent you the link to that to see if it was a legit link. And you showed me a couple ways of how to tell it was legit. It looked legit and everything. I went ahead and uploaded some documents. They use Box as a service to upload documents. So I did that. They requested driver's license and or passport to verify the information. But at the same time, I don't know if they even looked at that. At the same time, you kind of walked me through it. Originally, before I talked to you, actually, I had talked to I called in support, and they wanted me to fill out a form to basically take request ownership of my account again. And I was going to go through that process, right? Not knowing.
At least you knew you were talking to Intuit at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
As far as getting a random email, which that is if somebody's asking you for your driver's license through an email, that just smells fishy.
A little
literally.
Suspicious, yeah.
But in this case, it was actually legitimate.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll talk a little bit about the confusion and I'm showing the screen here of the error message, right? You can see that. Okay, perfect. So this is actually an Intuit page. And why am I seeing this page? Your account has been deactivated, error. So basically what was happening in JC's case is there was some suspicious activity on his account, right? And it's no fault of his own, right? Hackers are relentless, right? They're always looking for, weaknesses. And, there's data leaks all over the place, and, someone somewhere may have been trying to, get into his Intuit account from another site, or for another location, or maybe his VPN was being bounced off of, Russian satellites. I don't know, right? I mean, this could be anything, right? So the point is, though, is that the confusion lies around the Intuit account, because there's terms that are thrown around with regards to anything dealing with Intuit that can be confusing. I mean, you just, even in QuickBooks, right? If you're talking to a client and they say the word invoice, well, are they talking about a customer invoice, or are they talking about a vendor invoice, right? Because they mean totally different things when you're talking about, vendor versus customers. So what actually happened to JC was his login was deactivated, right? And because he had contacted QuickBooks, they thought he was talking about his QuickBooks service was deactivated, but not. He wasn't even getting that far, because he couldn't even log in, right? So the way I try to explain this to folks, like when they used to call me, is that your login is your identity, right? I mean, that is who you are, and then attached to that identity is things, products and services that Intuit offers. So QuickBooks is one of those products. Here TurboTax is another. Mint, just here on the screen. All of those things are tied to an Intuit identity, and they call that an account, right? So that's actually what was deactivated, was his login. And it would have been nice if it would just say your login is deactivated, because he's trying to, get into one of those services, which is QuickBooks at this point, and it's saying your account has been deactivated. So that leads itself to confusion, right? Because as the way you mentioned on the Facebook post, he's like, well, I contacted QuickBooks and they say my account is paid for, right? All my clients are paid for. Everything's active there, and they started him down the path of requesting ownership of the QuickBooks account, which he already had, right? So what we ended up doing is, through School of Bookkeeping, we have a QuickAnswers option where, any of our members, they can log in, they can reach out to us, and we can reach out to some of the folks that work at Intuit. And what I did, just for just wanting to help, is I reached out to them and provided them some information, and they saw in the online tool of where they look at and see the account, which in this case the login, that it was indeed deactivated, and then all they had to do was reactivate it, send him a password reset, and then he was able to log in. And how long did that actually take once we actually started that process?
Within the next day. I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't even 24 hours, I don't think.
Right.
It was literally maybe 8 hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's because it was late at night. Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
right. I had to wait
like,
until the next day till they were actually in, so I could have somebody do that. So I had them do it the first thing. You're on the West Coast, right? Yep. So, but even before you woke up,
yep,
it was all ready for you.
Yeah.
So what was, and then the thing is that they started him on a process of claiming his own ownership of his QuickBooks, which is a lengthy process. It takes at least 10 to 14 days, which he was barking up the wrong tree, at no fault of his own or Intuit's, because they thought they were doing the right thing by him, and it may have worked, right? Because ultimately he would have been the master admin, and they would have sent him a password reset, which would have reactivated his account, because somebody would have actually seen that, oh, it's deactivated. So right? And it
Right.
probably would have just worked. But it would have been, 2 weeks of being down in tax season for an accountant, somebody in the accounting profession. Not a great experience, right?
No. Yeah, I mean, I had another experience with a different client, just trying to change the bank account.
Mhm.
So what happened with this client was that they changed phone numbers, or they cut a line off, and the number that Intuit had was that old number. So when you're
Mm.
trying to change a bank account, they want to text you or call you with a security code. Well,
Yeah.
because that line was no longer active, we had no way of changing that bank account. And I can't tell you how long it took. It probably took uh, probably a month or two just to
Mhm.
get to the right person who understood the situation and knew exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can see how this whole ordeal could have gone for weeks or maybe even months. I don't know.
Right. Because that happens sometimes. Is that somebody who started a service, they become the first person who logs into any service inside of QuickBooks becomes the it used to be called the master admin. Now it's called the primary admin. They're basically the person who puts their login stake in the ground and says, I own this service, whatever it happens to be. And what happens sometimes is that that person is either an employee or a contractor. Since we're talking about an employee or contractors, they're delegated to sign up for payments, for example, or they set up for payroll inside of QuickBooks. Now that person's contact information is listed as the primary admin of that service. They leave the company, but now that person is still in charge of that. So they don't even have access to the email or the phone numbers that were given, or that person's not being cooperative.
Mm.
There's all sorts of, and then of course the worst thing is that person passes away or something like that. Now they're no longer going to be able to respond to some of the requests that they're given. So if you have a situation where you don't have access to those types of things, then there are ways to do that. And that's where you have to prove your identity, right? So now the burden becomes on the person making the request. And that's why, they'll need to ask for, passports or driver's licenses. And because there are lots of unscrupulous people out there that
Right.
pretend to be other people.
Yeah.
And they need to make sure that sort of thing is in the case. So I wanted to show, you brought up a good point. So there's this article, recover your account when you can't log in, right? Like, so if you still have the phone number and the email, that's easiest, right? So you can get to a place where you can receive those confirmation codes. But if you can't, then there is a change your email address form, which will allow you to fill out this form. Now, where are they? Where is it here? Change your email, consolidate. There used to be a form just like right on the send us a request. Oh, it takes me back there. There it is. Okay. So then you have your proof of identity, your driver's license, passport. And as long as you're on a site that says Intuit, right? Like you don't want like fishersrus.com to upload that information. But as long as you're here, that is a legitimate, site. It goes to the right people. And that's typically all they do is confirm identities based off of, what's been submitted. Of course, make sure it's nice and clear photo, no blurs and thumbs over the address or anything like that. So that's something to that does happen, right?
Yeah.
So JC, overall, like how was your experience? I'm fishing for compliments here. No.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, like I told you in our messenger, in the messages, I couldn't thank you enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew going through the process of just trying to change a bank account was painful enough. I could only imagine just getting completely locked out of my account of how long it would have taken. And like you said, I mean, the rep tried everything. They did everything I tried, resetting my password and all this and that. And they sent me to that form. They sent me the link to fill out that form to prove my identity. But who knows how long it would have it took.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with your help, I can't thank you enough for getting me up and running in no time. Now, you did also give me some workarounds if we weren't able to get the account up and running. So you said basically create some email variations or have them add me as a user.
Right.
So that definitely could have worked if we couldn't get the account back as fast as you did. But I mean, just not bothering the clients with that extra step and whatnot was also
right. Yeah, because of course now that when you have to ask your client, depending on your relationship that you might have with them, that could be like, well, why can't he sign into
yeah, might have
my
sounded kind of
QuickBooks?
fishy, huh? Yeah. So yeah, definitely, I can't thank you enough for the help and just getting me up and running within not even 12 hours. Seriously, like not even 12 hours. And that was only because it was nighttime.
Right. They were already closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time we were going in there. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking with us on our workshop Wednesday. So next week we're going to be talking about. Whoops, I have my list of topics here.
The endless list.
Yeah, my list. So how does the owner get paid? And so that's the topic that we're going to be talking about with our payroll fundamentals. So hopefully you can join us next week for another workshop Wednesday. And thanks for joining us today. And I hope you have a great week.